Sci Access, May 10, 2024. The LightSound Project, using Sonification to observe a solar eclipse. Allyson, Bieryla.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Allyson Bieryla. I'm a white woman, brown hair, long brown hair, and a ponytail today. My pronouns are she, her. I'm so excited to be here. I have been attending these conferences maybe since the beginning, and every time I learn something new and I make new connections, excuse me, and I'm just, you know, so excited to hear all the updates this SciAxis has done over the years. It's actually just incredible. So congrats to the team, and thanks for allowing me to speak today about a project that I've been working on since 2017. I'm really passionate about. And yeah, so I'm going to tell you about the LightSound project, which is geared toward observing solar eclipses with sound. So I'm an astronomer. I work at the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian, and I feel like I'm lucky enough to get to, I don't know, it doesn't even feel like a job sometimes. Astronomy is really cool, right? I think a lot of people agree that astronomy is a fun science. It's inspiring. So many kids want to be an astronaut or go to Mars or study space because it's interesting and it's inspiring. And I think that gives us a special, I feel, like it's important that as an educator, we give people all the resources they need to study and do the things that they love. I think the thing about astronomy is it's often thought of as a visual science, and it is, right? There's all these images of Hubble, Anna just showed this lovely Hubble Deep Field image. I'm showing an image here of a total solar eclipse, and they're visually stunning. There's not, you can't take away from that, but that's not the only way you can interact with the data and be a part of science. I think I'll try to emphasize just having resources to interact with the data and the science in different ways. In this case through sound. Is super important. So I'm showing an image here of a beautiful total solar eclipse. So we just experienced in North America two amazing solar eclipses in October 2023. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There was an annular eclipse. So the moon eclipses the sun, but it's just at a distance far enough away that it doesn't totally eclipse it. So it's often called the ring of fire because this image on the right that I'm showing of a child looking at a projection, you can't look directly at it because it's not totally eclipsed. And there's this ring of light around the edges. On the left is a total solar eclipse, which is a spectacular event where the moon totally eclipses the sun and you get just the corona, this ghostly white aura around it. And in the case of this last eclipse in April, the sun's at a solar maximum, and there were some amazing solar flares as well. It was pretty incredible. But these events, again, are not just interacted, visually. Lots of things happen too. Like I was in Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas, and it was a really warm day. It was like 80 some degrees, and I was getting close. It was getting close to time of totality, and I just realized suddenly, like, wow, it's actually chilly out. Or chilly. It was probably 70 degrees. The temperature definitely dropped, and it was noticeable. And animals react. There's lots to take in with all of your senses when you're experiencing these events. So back in 2017, a colleague at the Center for Astrophysics at the time, and a dear friend, Wanda Diaz-Merced, who was a blind astronomer, and I were having some conversations about accessibility, because I managed the labs and telescopes that we use for undergraduate teaching. So it was important that I was, at the time, especially, I was really thinking about how we can accommodate students with all kinds of disabilities. And, her being a blind astronomer, I wanted to talk to her and see how she interacts with data. And she uses sonification, so she uses sound to interact with data. So it happened to be the summer before the 2017 solar eclipse, and so we were talking about how to make that eclipse accessible to the blind and low vision community. So what we came up with was this device, which we call LightSound. It basically converts light to sound, and I will talk a little bit more about how it works and some of the details. But going into it in the design process, we wanted to make sure that it was open source. So all that means is it's available to everyone. We wanted to keep it low cost or free. We're certainly not selling things, but with grants, we're able to donate these devices for free. We wanted to include instructions online so people could know how to use them, could build them on their own if they want. All the software to run it is available online. We've developed software to kind of interact with the data, so you could plot the data or save the data to Sonify at a later date. We have 3D printed cases to make it, accessible. Like most libraries or schools now, you can print 3D cases, which made it a little easier than having to have a custom case. And everything's available in English, Spanish, and French currently. We're looking to continue to translate to different languages, but these are the primary languages of the locations where the eclipses have been. So I just want to highlight that this is a team effort, of course. Wanda's pictured in the top right. I've spoke about her. Daniel Davis is the director of lecture demos at Harvard, and he kind of helps make demos for classes. And so he was a key person at the beginning. We went to him and we said, we have this idea, how do we do it? And he helped worked with us and helped build the first prototype that we had. Soleil Hyman's a huge part of this project. She started in 2018 when she was an undergrad at Harvard. Now she's a University of Arizona grad student, and she's worked really closely with me along the way with this and did a tremendous amount of work on software, hardware, pretty much all parts of the project. And Elliot Richards joined us this year. He's an engineer at the Center for Astrophysics. Excuse me, and he helped us redesign the current. I'll show you on the next slide, but to make the design simpler so we can build things a lot quicker. So these are kind of the current designs that we have. So on the left, I'm showing an image of an open case, and we call it the wired version. It's basically all the parts are wired together. So the inside looks like a mess of wires. But this is what we used up until very recently. So basically it just takes a while. So you have to like strip the wires and solder everything together. There's a lot of room for error. There's wires, there's stripping, there's just a lot of parts to solder on. But it's these devices both work exactly the same. This device on the left, the wired version, takes probably 3 to 4 hours to build if you just sit down and build it. So we knew going into this eclipse, the 23-24 eclipses, that we wanted to build several hundred of these. So we really knew that we needed to speed up this process because we weren't going to be able to just sit and build these all day. So that's where Elliot came in, and he helped us redesign it to the version on the right, which is the printed circuit board version, or PCB. And basically what that is it creates this circuit board, which the wires are now embedded in. So it's this green background that is embedded in this case. And then the parts just sit nicely on top on these headers, which are like spokes that just sit on there, and then you just solder across. So the printed circuit board version really sped up our process on building these. It really only took about, for someone that's never soldered before, can come in and build it in a half an hour or something like that. We had people that started getting used to building them, and we had a record-setting time of 5 minutes to build one of these. So you can see from 4 hours to 5 minutes is a huge improvement. But I just also want to say on this slide, for those that are interested of how this works, they both work exactly the same. There's a light sensor, so that's this top square little rectangular piece. And on the printed circuit board, it's on the back side. The sensor's facing the back of the device. So it's basically just measuring the brightness of light. So bright sunny day is it gets read in as a high number, and then as it dims, as the moon eclipses the sun, whereas you're indoors, if you cover a sensor, the light intensity changes, so the number changes. And that gets read in through the microcontroller board, or the mini computer, which is this rectangular piece in the middle on the right, or the circular piece on the left. And you can think of it just like the computer. So it's where the code sits. So it's reading in these numbers from the light sensor, And then one last component is this bottom rectangular piece, which is the MIDI synthesizer board. And this allows us to assign instruments to the numbers. So what we did was for the bright ranges, we had a flute sound, mid-range is a clarinet sound, and then it goes to a low clicking sound. So during totality, you just hear like click, click, and I'll play a demo of that in a minute. And the last thing I'll say about this is the wired version runs off a 9-volt battery, and the new printed circuit board version has a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, which is really nice. I guess I'll say one more thing. The microcontroller board has a micro USB port, and that gets plugged into the computer, so that allows you, that's where you would connect the save the data or plot the data if you want to interact with it that way. It's also where you would charge the device for the printed circuit board. The 3D printed case has a nice cover that has our logo. It's a logo of a solar eclipse with a musical note in the middle. It says LightSound on the bottom and LightSound in Braille on top. So there's just on the exterior, there's just an on-off switch, and like I said, the micro USB port for connecting to a computer. And then on the top, there's an audio jack, which allows you to either connect to a speaker if you want to output the sound to a group, or you can connect to headphones if you want to interact directly. So I wanted to give you a chance to hear this. So I'm going to play a short sped up demo version of what you might experience during a total solar eclipse. So this video has a device that's exactly like I described. It looks slightly different because this was the one we used in 2019, 2020, which was the South American eclipses. But there's a light sensor on the top of this one, and there's a little black circle that's going to cover up that sensor. So right now it's just facing the sunlight, and so you'll hear starting off with the flute sound, and then as it gets covered, you'll start to hear the different ranges. So I'll let this play. And then low clicking, hopefully you could hear it. And then we come out of Eclipse. And back into bright sunlight. So I like to show these two photos when I talk about the project, because this kind of demonstrates how they could be used. On the left, I kind of already mentioned there's an audio jack that can connect to headphones. So some people just want to have an individual experience. They want to have the device in their hand or device on a table and just listen, just like you might want to go sit on a hill and experience a solar eclipse by yourself. You know, they may want to take ownership over the data and collect their own data. So you can use a device just on a one-on-one basis. But oftentimes, and probably the most common, is connecting the device to a speaker. So the image on the right is an image of La Portada Stadium in La Serena, Chile. So it's thousands of people in this big stadium. And in the forefront, there's a table with a LightSound device, and it's connected to a speaker. And it's really hard to see in the image, but there's one LightSound device, one big speaker, and a group of people kind of surrounding that on a table. And so the device is able to output sound to a group. So we started calling this like listening sections or sound sections. And this gives, you know, groups a way to interact with sound, but also engage with the larger group, which is important because, you know, people react, people are cheering, people are, you know, having emotional reactions to the eclipse. And so it's kind of cool to be part of that event as well. But again, not everybody wants to be a part of that, and not everybody wants to experience an eclipse with sound. So it's important to recognize that too. So often having these separate but included events, sound sections are important. So as I said, we started this in 2017. We had 3 prototypes. So I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we had 2 devices in Kentucky, one at Morehead State University and one at the Kentucky School for the Blind. And so with those devices, we tested the sound, we tested the data collecting capability, and our prototypes worked. There were things we wanted to improve on, especially with the sound, and that's something that Soleil came in and worked on. We got a new light sensor, and we integrated the MIDI circuit board. The first prototype didn't have that MIDI synthesizer board. And then these two great eclipses happened in South America. So it kind of passed through Chile and Argentina. And in 2020, or 2019, we had 20 devices that we distributed across the path of totality. And then 2020, we all know the pandemic hit and things changed. We couldn't all get together in the same way. But our colleagues in Chile got a grant that allowed them to build 100 devices and put them in these Eclipse kits that got sent out to people where there were small gatherings and I think even some at homes where people could engage. And the LightSound was part of those Eclipse kits. So for the 23, 24 eclipses here in North America, we set our aims high. We wanted to build 300 devices. And then we got additional funding and we wanted to build more. And, we got our goal up to 750 devices through support from the Simons Foundation, the National Science Foundation, the International Astronomical Union, and the American Astronomical Society. So for the annular eclipse, like I said, I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's where this site is on this image here, where you have a couple kids listening into the eclipse. We had built about 200 devices at this point and distributed them along the path. And it was really great. It was really great to get those out and get feedback. We didn't get any major feedback or design changes, but we knew that things were working and we were really excited. So we were going to push ahead. So this is showing a map of the United States, Mexico, and parts of Canada. So on this map, there's all these green dots, and these are where our devices were distributed. We have this interactive map on our website, so people can kind of zoom in and see what's nearby. Is there a location where these devices got distributed? In the end, we ended up building 900 devices. It was incredible, incredible effort, and the project kept growing. We got over 2,500 requests, which was amazing and overwhelming at the same time because we wanted to get a device to everybody, but knew we couldn't possibly. We just didn't have the time. But 900 is a big number, and we tried to get them. If this map, there's the annular eclipse that goes from Washington to Texas, and then the total eclipse goes from Mexico to Canada, essentially northeast. And so we got as many devices as we could out through the path. And so we sent them to libraries, museums, schools for the blind, people's backyard, because not everybody could travel. We tried to get them in places where people could, go to a local event, national parks, things like that. So there were plenty of places that people could go and experience this together, or, some in their backyard. And I want to again emphasize that this takes a huge effort. This was a huge team effort from communities. So these are images of workshops that we ran. So to build these devices, it certainly wasn't Soleil and I, like we did in 2019 when we built 20 devices. This was 900 devices, and this required a huge effort. So we ran all these workshops, and it was interesting because in 2020 we realized we needed, if we wanted to grow, we needed support and help. And so we started these workshops, which allowed people to come in without having any kind of experience soldering. And we teach you to solder, and you help us build these devices that we can then donate back to the communities, which is incredibly rewarding and humbling to see how many people just come out and spend a Saturday afternoon with us working on this. And we had Girl Scout troops, we had seniors, we had university students. We were at Harvard University, University of Arizona, Rochester Museum of Science. We were all over Texas and San Antonio, Austin. It was really, really great. So I'll show this time-lapse video. So this is just showing how this device is built. So essentially there's this printed circuit board, and there's these spikes coming up out of it, which are called headers. And so you just slide the piece on the header. And then you just solder along, and solder along the header to secure the piece on. And it's really fun because if someone's never soldered before, you can actually see them improve as they solder along that header. And there's really only 3 pieces to solder on, and then you attach a battery, and then you do a sound check to make sure it's working. You come back, you put it in a case, which is fun because we have all these different color cases, so you can kind of pick and choose your colors. and then you're ready to go. And then, like for instance, the Girl Scout troops, they came in and they were like, I'm not sure I could do this. I'm not sure I could do this. And then they're like, can I build another? Because it's really empowering to come in, learn something in an hour, and really it's been great. So these again are just a few photos of the 2024 Eclipse. So there's a couple photos of kids with headphones on, kind of in their backyards, engaging with the device, and then a couple listening sound sections, like I talked about, where it's on a table and connected to a speaker, where people are kind of engaging with it. So it's really awesome to get these photos and get feedback from people saying how it impacted them and how it encouraged their kids to get out and engage with an Eclipse. We knew that we couldn't get everyone a device that requested one, so kind of at the last minute, and a person that's become a close collaborator on this project, Dawn Davies, came up. She's like, maybe we should do a Zoom. And so we started talking about this, and we connected with the American Council for the Blind, who generously hosted this event for us on the day of totality. So we partnered with groups that had LightSound devices along the path of totality. So we started in San Antonio at Owl Radio, then City of Mesquite in Texas. Then we went to Little Rock, Arkansas, Indiana. We actually ended up going with Spencer Pride, who's in Indiana, Kent State University in Ohio, Total Eclipse of the Park in Rochester, and then Burlington, Vermont. And it was interesting because in San Antonio, where it's supposed to be clear, it was actually cloudy. So it was interesting to hear the LightSound device react to clouds because it has variability. And even though it's cloudy, it still gets darker. So you still hear the dip in the data and the sound. It's you see the dip in the data and hear it in the sound. It's pretty amazing. And then obviously some of these sites, like I was in Arkansas, and it was clear, so you get a different perspective. So over 2,500 people joined this live event, and it's recorded. So if you're interested, you can find it on our website or this QR code, and you can listen to it. And it's really cool because you get feedback at the end as well. So I just want to say briefly as I close, like some future, what are we doing next? And eclipses don't stop. So there's a couple eclipses coming up. The next one is in August of 2026 in Greenland, Iceland, Spain, and then one in 2027 is going through Northern Africa and the Middle East. So really it's some of the devices that we sent out, people are going to keep because you can still engage people with these devices outside of eclipses. You can demo eclipses. You could talk about anything to do with light and sound. And so a lot of people are hanging on to them, but some have sent them back. And so we're going to try to redistribute these devices. And we're also going to work on engaging communities in these countries to run workshops like we did. And, you need to start early. This is a huge effort. We've been working on this for 2 years for this eclipse. So it's really important to start now for something that's happening in 2024. And lastly, we're still thinking about development. We have this prototype device called Orchestar, and it uses a color sensor. So instead of engaging with intensity of light, it uses the wavelength of light, so red light versus blue light. So this is a photo of a demo where you can turn on an LED and it can reflect off of a poster, for instance. And so it can give you feedback on this, for instance, is a color map. So you can hear if it's blue or red or yellow or anything in between. So we're thinking about integrating color into the LightSound device as well to get feedback on the color of the eclipse, and just you can use it for other things as well. Color is a very important concept in astronomy. One last thing is we want to integrate a haptic motor into it, so a blind and deaf person can engage with vibration. And so those are the main development things that we're thinking about as we go forward. So just this last slide here is our website, my email, and the QR code takes you to our website. On the website, all the open source stuff is available, and contact information, the live Zoom recording, lots more information. So I look forward to chatting with some of you, and I'm happy to take any questions, and thanks for giving me the time to talk about this project.
Thank you so much, Allyson. Thank you. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
We do have a few questions for you. Adrian asks, what are other uses or applications that you envision for the LightSound device?
Yeah, I think we've thought a lot about trying to do lesson plans for classes. I think obviously just as a teaching tool, you could certainly talk about eclipses. You can, anything you can think of with variable light. So, variable stars. I'm obviously thinking about astronomy, but I think it could be used with anything science related that has any kind of light phenomena. And we've, thought about trying to develop these lesson plans, but we just haven't had the time. So we're, that's something too we're thinking about going forward.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Another question here from Kristen, who says, I had the good fortune to see the total solar eclipse in 2017 in Nebraska and in 2024. While I know total solar eclipse happen in all parts of the world, the next one in the United States, contiguous United States, is 2044. What sort of technology advancements would you like to see enhance this experience for low vision and blind people by then?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's hard to predict the future. I would, I think. Okay, so I'll speak on this for a second. It's just the light sound devices. It's just a very simple tool, right? Like I think, we built it because we wanted it to be low cost. I think, there's lots of other resources out there that engage with sound or things like that. Like I said, I think it's really important to like add maybe like a vibrational component to this. I think that would be really cool. I think just, building upon things like this and getting these resources to as many people as possible, not just this, but others. I want this to be as widely available. I hope it's just available in the next eclipse, we don't have to think about running these huge efforts.
Absolutely. Rosalba asks, are you open to collaboration to use sound for earth science applications, such as soil characterization?
Yeah, that's something about the open source nature of this project is, we came in with a specific, we want to build this for solar eclipses, but, other people have come in with different ideas and obviously, you're probably an expert in earth science and I'm happy to have conversations about that and chat about it. We've had artists come in and say we want to do some art thing with this and, the musicians like, all of it's awesome. We designed it for this one thing, but if it applies to other things, love to talk about it.
Fantastic. And final question here from John Beacom, who has his hand raised. John, go ahead.
Allyson, that was super interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
You had talked about using sound mostly to convey intensity. And then you talked about the wish to also include frequency.
Mhm.
I wonder if you could do that by basically adding a kind of a vibration sound on top of the main sound like this.
Yeah.
And then by controlling the vibration speed, give some information on the frequency.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're thinking. We have a couple different ideas because the orchestra that I mentioned, so it's just like the red. Currently, the way it's set up is the red light has like a lower tone or lower pitch than the blue light. But if we integrate them both, it would be nice to know, this is red light, but this is brighter or dimmer. And so, yeah, I can imagine the vibration being different for those colors, but also varying in intensity, vibrationally, and then sound-wise as well. Can, be louder or dimmer. There's lots of ways to approach it. We just haven't quite got to that, but we're hoping that's the next grant and hopefully that's where we're going with it. So, yeah, ideas are welcome. Thank you.
Sci Access. Learn more at www.sciaccess.org.